The ability to pivot is one of those superpowers you need to have as an entrepreneur. When things aren't going right to the point you feel that you need to move your business in a different direction is essential. That's what my next guest faced, where she was helping a lot of people in her coaching business, but there was a disconnect. And she felt that she could move her business into a different area where she could provide better value to the world. On this episode, I'll discuss with this physician entrepreneur why she decided to start her coaching business, why she decided to move it into a different direction, and what her plans are for the future for her business. My interview with Dr. Trina Dorrah on this episode of Bootstrap MD. Hey guys, this is Dr. Mike Wuming. Welcome to another edition of Bootstrap MD. Really looking forward to this talk. We've got another physician coach. She's an internal medicine physician hospitalist and the founder of Dr. Trina Dorrah Life Coaching. She's a certified self-love and body acceptance coach. Her mission is to help women learn more about how to break free from the diet mentality and the culture of self-hatred that teaches women that our bodies are never good enough. And I was so intrigued about her bio. I really wanted to have her on. So it is really just coincidental, but I think it's pretty awesome, is that we actually have the founder of Dr. Trina Dorrah Life Coaching, Dr. Trina Dorrah. How are you doing?
Hello. Good. How are you doing?
It really is unique how you actually named it after yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
So I was really intrigued about this because before we got on the call, I've been interviewing physician coaches lately, and recently you kind of changed your niche, not completely changed it, but you decided to morph it into something different. And I really wanted to have you on because I know that there are coaches who listen on here who maybe not really happy about the coaching that they're doing. Maybe feel that they could reach more people for whatever reason, and switch to something else. So I really want to get your insight and your thoughts into why you decided to do this. But before I go in, I'm a little bit of a comic book nerd. I like, how did Peter Parker become Spider-Man? How did Clark Kent become Superman? So how did Dr. Trina Dorrah become Dr. Trina Dorrah Life Coach?
So I actually hired a life coach myself. And so interestingly, I hired him to help me with fitness because he had been a fitness coach. And after I hired him, he said, "Oh yeah, by the way, since the last time you worked with me, I've become a life coach. And yes, fitness is part of what I teach, but I'm also teaching a lot more about mindset and well-being overall." And so I said, well, I'll give it a try. I don't really know about this, but I'll try it. And I actually ended up really loving it. And so whenever I was able to see the impact that he was having on people, I was just like, this is amazing. We all become physicians because we want to have an impact on people. And then I saw that he was having an impact and people were equally as touched by the work he was doing as a life coach. And that's where that thought really was put in my head at that time. Like, oh, maybe this is another way that I can help people in addition to medicine.
May I ask, where were you in your career and deciding to go for a life coach? Because although we have many non-physicians who listen on the call, many are physicians, and many, suffice it to say, they may be a little bit skittish about hearing the term life coach. Where were you when you decided to reach out to a life coach?
Right. I was 12 years post-residency whenever I first decided to work with him. And then, like I said, I actually didn't reach out to a life coach. I reached out to a fitness coach who said, by the way, I'm doing some life coaching. And so I don't know if I would have really known to reach out to a life coach had it not just happened this way.
Interesting. So did you have friends who had the same coach or maybe had experiences with life coaches and had a positive impact?
So actually what happened was I was at a work conference and you know how a lot of times at conferences for the icebreaker, you have to say something interesting about yourself. So I ended up saying for my interesting fact that I was working with a life coach. Well, at lunch that day, there was another physician who said, "Oh, I heard you're working with a life coach. Have you ever heard of Brooke Castillo?" And so Brooke Castillo actually founded the life coach school where I got my training. And so she said, you should try her monthly life coaching program. And so I did end up trying her monthly life coaching program. I fell in love with it, decided to become certified as a life coach through the life coach school. That was how it started. I mentioned it as a fun fact at a conference, and another physician who heard it said, "I've been doing some life coaching through this program. You might find it interesting."
And I assume at the time you were a busy doctor doing all your doctor stuff that we do. Why did you decide to take that on?
I was lucky in that I already had something else within medicine outside of just seeing patients that I really love. So when I finished residency, I did a fellowship in quality improvement. And so I'm actually our medical director for inpatient quality improvement at my hospital. And I love it. The ability to see patients one week and then do quality another week is so fun to me. It uses different parts of my brain, and I just get to do different things. So already I was really happy by that mix of clinical care and administrative care. And then when I learned about life coaching, I was like, this is just another thing that I can do in my spare time that brings me happiness and enjoyment. So I feel that I'm actually a pretty happy doctor because I get to see patients, I get to do quality, and now I get to do life coaching.
Which is actually sometimes rare to see a happy doctor. So
right.
That's awesome. So, and so you found your outlet. So tell me about your life coach journey. How did it first start? How did you first start getting clients, or how did you first deciding like what your niche was? And as we kind of talked about this top of the show, why did you transition to a different type of niche?
Right. So it's definitely not as easy as I initially thought it was going to be. I think in medicine, particularly as a hospitalist, I've never had to do any kind of marketing or find patients. As a hospitalist, the patients are just there. And so the person who had inspired me to become a life coach, which was this fitness coach, he had been in the game for 15 years already. So he had a pretty large clientele who was very passionate about him. So I thought, I'll just announce I'm a life coach and I'll get the same thing.
like Field of Dreams, build it and they will come.
Exactly. I was just like, I just assume this is what happens. You announce a challenge and 200 people sign up. And so little did I know that maybe there are a few coaches that happens to, but I think in general, it doesn't quite happen like that. And now I realize he was 15 years into it at the time. So I was kind of comparing my beginning to after he'd already been working for 15 years. And so when I started, though, I immediately decided I wanted my niche to be coaching divorced women. And the reason I chose that is because I myself have gotten a divorce in the past. And I always said that I wanted to use my experience in divorce to help other women. And so that was initially what I did. And I did that for the first year of my coaching journey.
As a doctor, I wasn't used to asking for help, especially when it came to subjects outside of medicine. But then I found physiciancoaches.com. In an instant, I found hundreds of experts to help me in all aspects of life. On areas I was afraid to ask. Dealing with burnout, starting a side gig, money management, even help with my marriage. And the best part? Nearly all experts are physicians themselves. After reading their profile and a quick chat, I knew I found the right mentor for me. At physiciancoaches.com, help from professional colleagues is just a click away.
Okay. So when did you decide to change this? Was it from the clients you had? Did you feel that there was a disconnect, or did you want more challenges in your coaching?
I did feel that there was a little bit of a disconnect. And I think it stems from the fact that currently, as we are speaking today, I got divorced 10 years ago. And so I did notice that a lot of times when I was writing copy or coming up with things to say, I was having to draw on, memories that were 10 years old at the time. I also wasn't in the place anymore where I was hurting. I actually now look at my divorce as one of the best things that ever happened to me because of the person that I became through it. And so I was extremely happy with my life in the divorce, but I was wanting to help people who were at a place where they were not happy. They did not want the divorce. They were really hurt and broken. I
want you to talk about that aside, as I saw an article from Kevin MD that you wrote, where you said the divorce was the best thing that happened in your life. You don't hear that often. What compelled you to write that, and tell us why you feel that way?
I think it's just because I became such a different, stronger, more powerful person because of the divorce. I got married in my 20s as soon as I graduated from medical school. I got married the very next day after graduation. And so I just got really used to this habit. I was a busy intern. At that time, we took Q4 overnight call, working 80 hours a week. And so I just kind of lost myself in the marriage. Like I just focused on being a doctor, let him take care of everything else. And over the course of that marriage, I really lost who I was. I lost, what I enjoyed, my own opinions, those types of things. And so whenever I got divorced, it really forced me to take a lot of responsibility for myself and then also just figure out who Trina was and what Trina liked to do. And it was very difficult at the beginning, but I did so many things. Like I traveled by myself. I took up hobbies. I made new friends. I always have had a little bit of kind of social anxiety. I forced myself to get out there. I went on a speed dating event just to force myself to get out there and try to get over my social anxiety some. And so I was all these things that I was doing, whereas when I was married, I just kind of sat back and let him take control of everything. Whereas when I got divorced, I was forced to explore these parts of myself. And so now I never want to go back to being that kind of docile person who just did whatever he wanted.
Yeah, you make reference to Trina Dorrah 1.0 versus 2.0.
Yes.
2.0. So suffice it to say, we probably wouldn't be talking as a life coach expert if that didn't happen.
Exactly. Okay. We would not.
So let's talk about, I guess maybe we're going to call this Trina 2.5 or 3.0 because let's talk about the niche that you're in. You felt that there was a disconnect. Let's talk about why you transitioned to the new niche and tell us more about what you're doing now.
Right. Yeah. So there's actually a story there. And so the story is, for many years, I had an eating disorder. And it was one of those things where it never seemed serious enough. I tried to get treatment a couple times over the course of my life, never really stuck. And then I just had kind of convinced myself that it's not that bad. I'll just live with this the rest of my life. Well, when COVID happened, and we heard all kinds of stories, right, about how physicians coped and dealt with COVID. And so you heard stories of people who started drinking too much, or maybe some physicians who did drugs or sunk into deep depression, et cetera. And so my coping mechanism was overeating. And so there is an eating disorder called binge eating disorder. And so my coping mechanism was to use my eating disorder to try to cope with life. I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time, but now I do understand it. And it just got to the point where I couldn't control it anymore. And as a physician, we're very good at controlling things. So everything else in my life was in control except for this one thing. And I just could not control it. And so I finally did seek help, which was not an easy thing to do. I think it's very difficult for physicians to ever say they need help with anything. And I was very ashamed. I didn't tell anybody what I was doing except my husband. And so I went and got help. And so getting help was the new best thing that's ever happened in my life. So before it was the divorce, now getting help, and that experience completely changed me to the point that whenever I got out, I was like, I've got to share what I've learned with other people. Now, I do want to make it clear, I am not an eating disorders therapist. Okay. So I am not a therapist. I am not a psychiatrist. But one thing that I learned is, yes, there's a percent of the population that has an eating disorder, But particularly among women, there are so many women who don't officially qualify as having eating disorders, but still have a lot of disordered eating, disordered thoughts, self-hatred. They don't love themselves. They don't love their bodies. And that's who I decided that I really wanted to help. Like, I have now found so much freedom, and I am happier than I have ever been. And I felt like this is a message that I had to get out there to people. And so that's what actually prompted me to change my niche.
So tell me how your coaching works. Do you work one-on-one? Do you do a group? And who do you consider like is someone that this is best for?
Right. So I do both. I've done one-on-one and I've done groups. So my upcoming challenge, like the 8-week body acceptance bootcamp, is a group coaching format, but I do one-on-one. So I definitely work with women, and it doesn't matter if they're physicians or not. I have worked with both physicians and non-physicians. And I really want to work with someone who is tired of the diet roller coaster and the diet mentality. And by that, I mean that mentality where we always feel like we have to measure everything or weigh everything or count points. Or if you eat something that's off plan, you feel guilty. This morning, I had a slice of apple pie, and I was able to fully enjoy it and not feel guilty about it. Whereas before, I would have felt so guilty. I would have been like, oh my gosh, I guess I can only eat salad the rest of the day. I need to go to the gym and work out for 2 hours. So I want to help women break free of that mentality and say, it is okay to have a slice of apple pie every now and then. It is okay if your body does not look the exact same now as it looked when you were a senior in high school. Like, that is fine. That's okay. You're still worthy. You're still beautiful. And so that's what I really want to help people, and women in particular, with that.
I know we probably don't have the time for this, but what have you noticed in terms of like how society is in terms of the term body acceptance and maybe some of these unrealistic role models that we see out there? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So in the community, you hear people talk a lot about thin privilege. And so basically what they're saying is, we live in a society where if you are smaller, you do have a certain amount of privilege. People might think you're more beautiful, or you might be able to get a job more easily, or people don't think negative things automatically about you, like, oh, they must be lazy. They can't stick to any kind of plan or anything like that. But the reality is there are so many women of all different shapes and sizes. We are not all made to be the exact same size. And there's nothing wrong with people who are small either. My thing is, I want women to embrace and accept where they are supposed to be. So there are some women who naturally are supposed to be a size 0 or a size 2, and that's okay. There are some women who naturally are a 6 or a 12 or a 16. And so I want to help people embrace where they are. And even if they want to engage in healthier behaviors and exercise, or even if they want to try to lose weight for health reasons, it doesn't work well when you're coming at it from a place of hating yourself. And it doesn't work well when you are coming at it from a place of being on a very restrictive diet, which is what I always thought you had to do. I always thought, oh, I want to lose weight. I need to go on this super strict diet, 1,000 calories, 10 grams of sugar. I can only eat 5 things. And so that's what I thought the answer was, because when I did that, I always lost weight. But what I didn't realize is that was just setting me up for binging later and setting me up for gaining all the weight back, because those diets were not sustainable.
And I know you both work with physicians as well as non-physicians, but have you noticed with the physicians that you work at or have gone through your program that there may be another level to that? Because as health providers, I know myself have had weight issues as well. There is even more of a thought that we have to kind of live the life that we're as a health provider.
I think there's definitely a lot of shame among healthcare providers and physicians in particular if they feel that they are not living life the way that they're telling their patients to live it. And then I also have noticed a lot of physicians say, well, I can't really get on board with embracing that any size is okay because of other health consequences. But one of the things I talk about, and there's a movement called the Health at Every Size movement, you can still engage in healthy behaviors no matter what your size. So even if you're 400 pounds, there's something that you can do to exercise or make different choices. One thing that my dietitian always said, and I love this, is she said, don't think about, like, when you're looking at your plate of food, don't think about what you need to take away or what, make judgments about that food. She's like, you can just think of it as, what can I add to this plate to make it more balanced? And so I have done that before. Like, I might have some chicken nuggets and a few French fries, and I say, okay, what can I add to make this more balanced? I'm going to add some broccoli, which is a different mentality than, oh, Trina, look at this. This is bad. You're going to gain weight. You shouldn't eat this. I guess you'd better go get some broccoli. So those are two different mentalities.
Tell us about, we've got an upcoming event you're putting on. It's called the Body Acceptance Bootcamp. It starts September 7th. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so it's an 8-week body acceptance boot camp. And so basically it covers these concepts. So intuitive eating, health regardless of your size, self-love, self-worth, acceptance, etc. And so I really want to just, again, help people get off of that diet roller coaster. So even if they have a desire to lose weight, I want to help move them away from the typical type of diet that says you must restrict, because restriction really doesn't work. Restriction just sets us up for failure. So I want to teach all of these concepts and really just help women find freedom around food so that, again, they can have a slice of apple pie and not feel guilty about it. Or they can go to a restaurant with their friends and not be so consumed with how many calories everything has that they can't really even enjoy the conversation with their friends. So now that I have found this freedom around food, it's freed up so much mental energy. Like all that energy that from the moment I used to wake up, I used to be thinking about what my body looked like, what I was going to put in it, how many calories, when I was going to exercise. Like I used to think about this all the time. It's freed up so much energy. So I could be doing talking to you, or working on my coaching business, or be more focused on my patients at work, because I no longer care as much about what my body looks like. Yes, I still want to take care of my body and respect my body, but that is not my primary thought anymore.
I love this. So if someone is listening to this or watching this video, where can they go to find out more information about your bootcamp and your coaching?
Yes, so they can definitely go to my website, drtrinadorrah.com, and then they can also follow me on Facebook. And I put a lot of information on my personal Facebook profile.
Awesome. We've got the Body Acceptance Bootcamp. It's an 8-week program starting September 7th. I love the passion in your voice. I can definitely tell, your coaching is just an extension of who you are and providing more value to the world. What have you learned as a physician coach that perhaps you didn't get prior to doing all of this?
It's very different, I think, than medicine. And especially as more physicians are joining large organizations that kind of take care of all the business side of things for you, and then you just show up and see patients. I've had to learn how to do Facebook ads, or learn how to create newsletters or websites, marketing, all of these things, do Facebook Lives, talk on podcasts like this. And so this is all very different set of skills than what I had being a physician. And so I found it to be really fun. Like that's what I just try to remind myself of, is that this is supposed to be fun. Like I don't want to take on a second job that is as stressful as my first job, or that I'm not having fun in. So I enjoy even all the things that I'm having to learn. Like I just think of it as something that's fun, that's adding enjoyment to my life.
Well, I can definitely tell. That you now know what your mission is. It sounds like or at least one part of your mission too.
And I live this every day too. So what I am coaching on, I'm living as well in my own life, and so in this moment, and I think it really shows.
And also too, as a coach, we don't often think of this. We're actually learning from our clients as well, our students. Yes. I'm sure.
Yes.
Sure as well. So Trina, thank you so much. It was a very enjoyable conversation. This is definitely a mission that I wanted that we should all hear, whether, whatever we're in life, thin, big, wherever we are, it's something that we should be more aware of, not only for ourselves, but also perhaps if we have patients who deal with this as well, and to help them understand. So go and check out her website. It's drtrinadorrah.com.
Can I say one other thing? I'm sorry. You just brought this up. This is important to say. I do think it is important for physicians to kind of educate themselves on the overweight population and even on patients that do have eating disorders, just to understand how putting the patient on the scale and announcing their weight out loud may be very triggering to them, or this idea of everything that is wrong with them is just related to their weight, and the fact that that discourages a lot of patients from seeking care and wanting to come back to the doctor. And so I do think it's important as physicians for us to think about, okay, how do I have these conversations with patients? Because you don't want a patient to think, oh, they only always think it's my weight. I'm embarrassed. I'm shamed. I'm always shamed at the doctor. And so I'm not going to go. We don't want that to happen. So I just wanted to bring up that point, because that's really important.
Yeah, that is an important point, and that leads into another conversation that probably could take us hours. We don't get any type of training into weight management, weight loss. I think I had a 1-hour nutrition course in med school.
Same here.
That was about it. So again, very important point. Perhaps we'll have another conversation about this in a future podcast. But once again, thank you, Dr. Trina. Please check out her site. She's got the Body Acceptance Bootcamp. It's happening on September 7th. It's an 8-week program. Go to Dr. Trina Dorrah. That's TRINADORRAH.com. You can find her on Facebook or wherever you follow social media. Any last minute words before we end the call today?
And just thank you for what you're doing with the website and just highlighting physician coaches. I think that coaching is something that can benefit every person, and in particular, every physician. So I really thank you for your work in trying to make this more mainstream.
I appreciate it too. And I think I also know a pattern that those who become coaches have been coached themselves.
Right.
I've rarely found one that, said, I'm just going to start up a coaching program.
Right.
They've gotten personal benefit by having a mentor, having a coach on there, and now realize that yes, they too have a message that they want to share with the world and just making it a better place. So thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Trina.
Thank you.
As always, guys, if you're considering coaching or getting coached, it's not about just standing and research about it. Go out, find the coaches out there, just like as Trina did. And if you want to become one, for you to do it, just start it today and keep moving forward. Hey, Dr. Mike here. I hope you're inspired by that interview. And if you aspire to become a coach or consultant yourself, I highly encourage you to check out my free on-demand masterclass, How to Become a Highly Paid In-Demand Physician Consultant or Coach. On the masterclass, I'll not only show you my story of how I've become a physician consultant for over 15 years, I'll also show you real-life case studies of physicians who are actively doing this now, either adding or replacing their current income as a doctor. To register for the masterclass, we'll leave a link in the show notes. I look forward to sharing you this important information today.